How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is Aaron the Pedantic, and I'm making my triumphant return after being sick with something. I haven't been able to get tested yet just because they seem to be out of tests. Yay! But I'm just hiding in quarantine until I figure out what it is and if it's highly transmissible and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, while I've been chillaxing, I read this book, Troika, the Numinous Edition, and I've heard many things about this. Is it complete and utter trash that is, just useless? I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. Anytime people say that and they say it repeatedly, I feel compelled to read it for myself and see if it's as bad as they say. This is why I'm going to try fourth edition at some point. Yes, you can try to spare me, but it's not going to work. I'm sorry. If somebody says something is incredibly good, then I oftentimes want to be like, is it really though? I'm just a contrarian. I'm a dick that way. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I've definitely heard that. I've heard that it is not suitable for campaign play just because it doesn't lend itself. There's no really sense of progression or anything like that. I've heard all kinds of things, and I try to approach things with an open mind whenever I see them. So I've also heard that it is a fantastic rules light game that you can just go crazy and do this weird gonzo worldy stuff, science fiction fun. And gonzo is kind of my bag. I really like gonzo stuff. This is really gonzo. This may be too gonzo for me. So we'll just start off with that. It may be too gonzo for me. Let's look at the art. So the art, as you can see, is pretty out there. It is pretty out there. You have some wild and wacky characters, a wild and wacky backdrop. Things aren't really kind of incomprehensible. That is kind of my problem with Troika overall. So if I could put it in a nutshell, it's that it tries to be so wacky that it's incoherent. And that to me is a danger with any kind of gonzo stuff. I feel like gonzo, it needs to have a surrealistic quality to it. It needs to show something that is beyond realism, and a lot of times whenever you want to pull that off and have it have some kind of substance, you do need to have some kind of anchor, something that is tying it down. So there have been some products that are made for Troika that I've seen that I think would do that better. And that's whenever they have some kind of grounding element, something that your players can hang their hats on and be like, okay, so I can rationalize a lot of things based off of what I know about this and this and this and this and this. And then from there, that's whenever the other elements that creep in, they can have some kind of meaning, because of that juxtaposition between those things. The contrast is what is going to give it that kind of meaning. Whenever you have really no element to ground it to, then at that point, it just kind of becomes imaginary happy hour. And I think that is whenever it's just not that appealing. And that's kind of where I've landed with what Troika does. So, but let's look at what else it does. The art on the inside is not as cool looking as the art on the outside. I mean, that's to be expected. It's just to be expected. Like, you put your best piece up front. I'm going to do the same thing, So, like, no harm, no foul. But if you go in expecting, stuff that looks like this, you're going to be partially in the right direction. It's not going to be as technically proficient. It's not going to be as highly colorful. It's going to be very stylistic. It doesn't do a whole lot for me other than just give me the vibes of weird abstract, painting. Basically, it's just kind of what it gives me. This book has a very artsy appeal to it, and it's the kind of thing that I want to appreciate because I am a snob and I am a very pretentious person. My ex-wife would happily tell you so. But at the same time, I just don't feel any feelings whenever I look at this stuff. I don't feel awe and amazement whenever I look at this stuff. I don't really have any interest in these characters necessarily. It just seems like just weirdness. It just feels like weirdness. And, because of that, I'm not really a fan of the art. So there is that. The layout. How is the layout? The layout is effective. So I love anytime you have important tables on the most accessible part of the book, which is, whenever you first open the damn thing. And in this case, what do you have? Well, you don't really have a whole lot of rules in this game, and that's part of its charm. But what you have is you have spell names, you have what pages their information's on, you have rolling up spells, you have damage rolls, and damage rolls are interesting in here. You don't need to memorize any kinds of specific, okay, well, this is a dagger, so it's a d4 +1 or something like that, as I've seen in some systems. Instead of that, what you're going, or especially like if you think of in AD&D terms, where it's like, oh, against a large creatures, give me this or whatever, that kind of thing. You don't have to memorize anything like that. You're going to use a table to look up your damage results with any weapon. That is, to me, perfectly acceptable because I like Dungeon Crawl Classics, which does that with spells. This, on the other hand, has very simple spells that are easy to adjudicate, but at the same time, the melee stuff, you're actually going to have to look at the charts. So, you do a d6 roll every time you do damage, and you just consult the chart. And basically, you'll go down on the chart like 1 or 2 steps, or 3 steps, or 4 steps, depending on what kind of armor they have equipped. And yeah, and I mean, if you happen to roll exceedingly well, if you roll double sixes because you're using 2d6s for your attack, then you're going to do more damage. It's gonna be really up there. So that's pretty neato. I like it. Okay, so yeah, when you consult the chart, I like that it offers these different gradients of damage. So doing 1 damage, or like rolling a 1 on your damage die, might be 4 points of damage, stamina damage with a spear. Or it might be just 1 point if you're unarmed or using a club. So it has this just kind of, I don't know. There's a little bit of interesting substance there. I like it. I don't know why I like it, but I like it. So what else do we have here? On the other side, we have the oops tables. This is what happens if you try to cast a spell and you fail miserably. So I like that. People know that I love DCC. Part of DCC is the corruption charts and the things that can go wrong whenever you fail to cast a spell. I like whenever you have this kind of magic. The only time that I really wouldn't be interested in this kind of magic is whenever we're using Vancian magic. Then I kind of like, well, it doesn't work because you've already got this kind of expendable resource. It's a big deal or whatever. Anyway, I'll get back to magic later. So whenever your character is being created, basically you have 3 stats. You have your skill, which is a number between 4 and 6. You have your stamina, which is a number between 14 and 24. And then you have your luck, which is a number between 7 and 12. Okay. So your skill is going to be what you're using whenever you're going to add whatever that is. And that's something that's going to come in just a minute. Your stamina is going to determine if you're alive or not, basically. So your stamina gets reduced every time you take damage. And then once it goes down, if it goes down below 0, then you're dead. If it goes down to 0, you're unconscious and bad stuff is happening or whatever. It's a fairly deadly system. I do appreciate that. It's fairly deadly, but at the same time, it's not so deadly as BX or anything like that. So there is a little bit more room for survival in that case. But then again, you also deal more damage. So it kind of balances out. Stamina is also used in order to cast your spells. It's your fuel for your spells. I like this. I like whenever if you're not going to do the Vancian casting, then I like for there to be some kind of tangible effect of where does this magic come from? Well, it comes from the essence. It comes from your energy. So I like it as being a resource that you have at your disposal. I like it. Luck. So luck it's a luck stat. There are ways that you can test your luck in order to push a situation in your favor, to do more damage, to do better on a roll, that kind of stuff. I like it. It goes down with time and it comes back whenever you rest. So that is, from what I understand, different from how it works in fighting fantasy, where it would come back in certain situations. It comes back if you rest. So usually get your luck back. But yeah, it's not going to stick around, forever. You will be using it. You can decide not to test your luck if you want. So you do have a bit of control over that. You can just be like, I'm just going to take the consequences, and I'm not going to bother testing my luck because that luck is an ongoing resource that I need. I need to be able to roll. I need to be able to roll under that luck so that I can survive, in a bad situation. So yeah. Um, then you're going to roll your possessions, baseline possessions, and then the background table. The background table is both the coolest idea, but in my opinion, the poorest execution. Why is it poorly executed? It's poorly executed because, in my personal opinion, the assumed setting that it provides is dog shit. That's just me personally. It's just a bunch of random stuff thrown at the wall, and it's like, it's trying to be so clever. It's trying to be so clever and so brilliant and all these kinds of things. And it just splats against the wall. It's like somebody just took a giant dump and then just rubbed feces on the wall and said, this is art, and that you're supposed to take that on face value. I don't think that it's art. I think that the language is very flowery. It's very abstract. This is a game that, if you appreciate what it's presenting you, as far as the assumed setting, the background, all this, the creatures, and if you're planning on running it just as it is, then these are very artsy folks. Very artsy folks. They want to sound very impressive. They want to be very random, and yeah, I don't see the game having any real substance to it. I see it as being an exercise in pure expression, creative expression. So this is just artsy folk stuff. It really is. As far as for pure gaming potential, what I would do is I would say, fuck all of this. So, like, throw out all of the backgrounds. You can take what the essence of the background is and replace it with something coherent for a good setting. So what I would do is I would replace this befouler of pawns, for instance, and then I would have some kind, like if I was playing a chalt game, perhaps I would say that you are a priest of the sacrificial crimson rock, perhaps, and then so there'd be a description of what is the crimson rock, and why have you left it, because the whole thing is that you're off doing things, right? And then we would look at, what are the possessions that you're going to have. Very easy to create a background, guys. Very, very easy. And then what are your skills that you're going to have? They're going to add up to be roughly about 10 points, or a little bit, 10 to 15 points, something like that. And so, yeah, you're going to get, for that, you're going to get maybe extra, you're going to get a spell or two because you've been dabbling in sacrifice. You're going to get a few like cleric spells or whatever. You're going to get, some stuff in ritualistic sacrifice as a skill. That's something you're good at, or maybe you're really good at butchery because of it. Maybe you're good at occult readings. Those are the kinds of things that you would put in your advanced skill. Apologize. And then you're going to put whatever, maybe a little something special on there, something special that they can do that nobody else can do. As a potential thing to put in a book as part of your character creation process, I like it. It's very rules light, and it has some very cool stuff with it. It's just that the setting stuff here is dog shit, and because of that, it's basically useless for me. I have no use for this personally. So that's your character. Now your character is done. You made your character. What else do we got? So, as far as how this thing works, the initiative system is pretty cool. The initiative system, from what I understand, is purely the creation of Troika. And what you're going to do is you're going to assemble a stack, and the stack is going to be just a bunch of tokens of various colors that are going to represent either a character in the party or any monster. So what I mean by that is I might get, I don't know, 50 red poker chips, and I might put them in a bag because there's 50 bad guys, or there's 50 counts of initiative for the bad guys, because some bad guys are going to have, one count like a goblin, or they might have 3 counts, like, I don't know, something bigger than a goblin that attacks better than a goblin. So what happens is anytime that I pull one of those red ones out, that means that I get to have one of the bad guys act. It doesn't matter which one, they're all bad guys. Whenever I have a character, so like let's say I have Fafford and I have him represented by blue poker chips, I'm only going to have 2 blue poker chips in the bag to start with. And anytime I pull one of those, it is his turn. After I pull out a poker chip, it goes on the table and it doesn't go back into the bag until I pull out the one poker chip that represents the end of the round. And then once the end of the round is represented, then any kind of extra tabulations we need to do for like damage over time or anything like that, that's whenever that's going to transpire. Everything resets, everything goes back in the bag that is supposed to go in there, and then we start the next round. So what it ends up doing is you never quite sure who's going to get to go, how many times they're going to get to go. Well, you know that they're not going to go any more than twice if they're a character. And it's kind of chaotic. I think that it's a really cool system. It sounds like it's kind of a pain in the ass to set up at first. You need to have a lot of physical objects to work with, and the payoff, is the payoff worth it? I think it could be. I think it's pretty cool. It's worth trying. So the initiative system is okay in my book. What else do they offer in this that is not just from Fighting Fantasy, that it is pretty cool? Well, I like the inventory system. The inventory system is really awesome. Basically, everybody is going to have 12 slots. Your armor could be anything from 0 to I guess 8. I think it's 8 slots for like the heaviest armor. It maybe 6. It might be 6 is the heaviest armor. And basically, whatever the reduction, the armor value is, you double that, and then that is how many slots are taken up in your inventory by that armor. Basically, large items such as weapons, big weapons, and things like that are going to be 2 slots, and then smaller items are going to be 1 slot. And if it's something that can fit in a bundle and the weight is fairly negligible, then as long as you don't go crazy with it, it's 1 slot. I think it's very elegant. And what you do is you assign things in order of importance. So let's say that I am going to put my torches in the top. It's going to be my first thing there. I'm pretty much always going to be able to pull those out first, because if I'm not holding something and I need to pull it out of my bag, what I do is I'm going to roll a 2d6 and I'm going to try and roll equal to or under the slot that it is in my bag. So it allows you to prioritize your inventory. It's really easy to track. And if you ever hold more than 12 things, then you start moving more slowly and your rolls take a hit. So very eloquent. I love it. I'm stealing it. It's great. It's a great inventory system. So they have to get kudos there. As far as the fighting goes, it is very dangerous. Anytime that you attack somebody, what it is, there's no armor class system. It is a roll, a contested roll. So you are trying to outperform the other person in their ability to attack you. So you're going to do your attack roll. If you roll higher than they do, then you damage them. If they roll higher than you do, even if they're defending, they damage you. So anytime that you attack somebody, there's the potential that you're going to be hurt. I like this because it means that you have to weigh these things out big time. And as I kind of said, this is a fairly fatal system. So if you act as a very aggressive person, then you're going to be on the receiving end of a lot of damage. And I think that is pretty neat. As far as your healing potential, healing is, it's not going to be constant. There's a decent bit of it, but it's not going to be all over the place. A lot of this is really easy to run, simple rules. I like it. Now, people talked about how there's really not a whole lot of momentum, not a whole lot of room for growth in the game. And a lot of that is because of the section on getting better. So basically, whenever you get better, whatever the deal is, basically, anytime that you succeed on a skill check, then you put a little check thing next to your skill that you used. And whenever you have um, a chance, it just says the next time you have a chance to rest and reflect on your journey, you may check and see what you've learned. So it's very vague. It's something that's fairly arguable, but at the same time, I mean, we all kind of know what it means, right? Like you're relaxing for a bit. It wouldn't be like, oh, you get to sleep necessarily for me, and be like, y'all are taking a few days off or something like that. Well, it's kind of like the system in Morkborg in some way, in that what you're doing is you're gonna roll this dice and try and roll higher than what you already have, and if so, then it increases by one. So that will you can slowly build your advanced skills, basically, or spells in that manner. Um, how do I feel about this? Well, I mean, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily. I don't see that there's a whole lot for people to really hang their hat on for massive growth. I feel like it's going to be better if you're using things that have backgrounds that have, like, I don't know, interesting skills that you can develop and all that kind of stuff. But really, ultimately, the biggest thing is that people need to be able to invest in the world. And I feel like with this kind of gonzo, weird game, it's hard for me to get invested in the world because the world is so damn weird. There's no anchor to it. It doesn't feel like it has any real substance. It feels like it's just completely made up to the whims of what the person running it is trying to present. And yeah, that's how it always is. But you know what? There are certain expectations I can have whenever I'm running a game of Chalt or a game of D&D or something like that. Like, I can have I can make assumptions and they will bear fruit. That typically kingdoms are going to work in this way. Feudalism will have some kind of, you know, simple connection to what it was like historically in some way. I can't really have those expectations with this because it just throws shit at the wall and tells you that it's hard, basically. There is an included adventure on here, and I went in this with complete and utter neutrality, trying to be as open-minded as possible. And what I was left with is it looks like it could be a fun period of play with people with never having the expectation to play it again necessarily, because all it is, it's about you have the choice, they have the choice. They want to get to the sixth floor where there's a party, and they're told you want to go to the party. Okay, so they have an objective and everything. The question is, do they take the stairs or do they take the elevator? Or do they take the elevator a little bit and then take the stairs because the elevator's got problems? Or do they decide to take the stairs and then actually, no, screw the stairs, we're going to take the elevator? And then you have just a series of encounters along the way. And really, the encounters really, it solidifies exactly what I'm talking about. It seems to be the whole intention of the thing, which is just to be as off the wall and catch people off guard as possible by being just really random and all that kind of stuff. And that is going to strike a chord with some people. They're really going to like that because that's just they're those kinds of people. For people like me, who I am even though I am pretentious at the same time, I'm pretentious in the wrong way, in that I want things to make some kind of coherent sense. It looks like it'd be a fun distraction, but at the same time, I don't know that I'd ever want to do it again. And I don't see myself wanting to play this style of game. So if the other adventures that people make for Troika are anything like this introductory adventure, I'm probably not going to like it. I'll just say that. So those are my feelings on Troika. What I would like to see is I would like to see somebody adapt these rules to a setting that doesn't suck. And then I think that I could find a really cool product. Until then, meh. I I hope that y'all enjoyed this review, if you want to call it that. I don't like calling things a review until I've run them, but this yeah, this I know that I don't like the setting. I already know that, and the setting is a big part of what this is. So that's it. That's it for me.